In this lesson, we look at John's view of Jesus in a general way. In his first letter, we look at his beliefs and his testimony about Jesus. John's view of Jesus Christ is true, because Jesus Christ was manifested to John in two very special ways. Firstly, John had a close and personal association with Jesus, and is able to be a true witness. "What we have seen and heard we proclaim to you," he says in the first chapter, verses 1 to 3. Secondly, John received a witness from God, the essence of which is that God has given us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. 1 John 5, 9 to 12. Let us consider various facts about Jesus to which John draws attention in his letter. First of all, eternal life is in Jesus Christ. John claims that Jesus was from the beginning, and he was that eternal life which was with the Father. 1 John 1, verses 1 to 2. In his Gospel account, John states this more strongly. "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made." John 1, verses 1 to 3. And John says further, "God has given us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. He who has the Son has the life." 1 John 5, 11 to 12. So, Jesus is eternal, and eternal life is in him. Now, secondly, John tells us that Jesus Christ is truly human. John uses a careful form of words. "The blood of Jesus Christ, his Son." This form of words acknowledges that Jesus, the man of flesh and blood, was not separate from Christ, God's Son. The essential confession, "Jesus Christ has come in the flesh," is a similar form of words. Christ, God's Son, was Jesus, the man of flesh who shed his blood. They weren't two different beings. Later, John says that any person who does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is not from God and is, in fact, Antichrist. 1 John 4, verses 1 to 3, and 2 John 1, verse 7. Now, thirdly, we see from John that Jesus is truly God. When John speaks of fellowship with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ, he acknowledges Jesus as the Son of God. John twice uses the exact title, the Son of God, when he tells us that we must believe and confess Jesus to be such. 1 John 4:15 and 1 John 5, verse 5. Let's look at those passages. "Whoever confesses that Jesus is the Son of God abides in him, and he in God. Who is the one who overcomes the world but he who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. John finishes his letter with an extremely strong and clear statement. And we are in him who is true, in his Son, Jesus Christ. This is the true God and eternal life. 1 John 5, verse 20. Now, a fourth thing that John tells us about Jesus is that he is our advocate. When we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous. Jesus is our intercessor or paraclete, called alongside to help. Jesus has this authority to advocate because he is the Christ, the anointed Messiah. Christ's role as intercessor is to stand up for you when you are required to account for yourself under charge of wrongdoing, or speak for you when you are making a plea to God. Now, fifthly, John tells us that Jesus is the atonement for all sins. John calls Jesus Christ the righteous, 1 John 2, verse 1, and John later says, he was manifested to take away sins, and in him there is no sin. John makes a number of statements about the sacrifice of Christ. His blood cleanses us from all sin, 1 John 1:7. He himself is the propitiation or atonement for all sins, 1 John 2, verse 2. He laid down his life to save us, 1 John 3:16 and chapter 4, verse 14. The word propitiation, which we encountered back there in 1 John 4:10, means that which, through the love of God, makes atonement to appease the wrath of God. Through the love of God, Jesus made atonement to appease the wrath of God. Now, sixthly, Jesus is greater than Satan. John encourages us by pointing out the supremacy of Jesus Christ. Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. 1 John 4, verse 4. Christ's power over Satan is the main idea in the book of Revelation. Jesus' purpose is to destroy the works of the devil. 1 John 3, verse 8.